So one of our reporters, like basically one of our only ground reporters, Elad Eliyahu, went out for drinks in Brooklyn. And Elad made a mistake his first mistake, living in New York City. His second mistake was trying to go to Brooklyn, of all places. And of course, he ended up getting harassed by this dude. I want to play these videos for you where the bartender basically breaks down why someone like Elad is not welcome to have a drink or to associate in these neighborhoods. And this is why I'm saying, I know I'm going to say it, civil war. Because it may not be this moment. This may seem like nothing to you. But let me play for you this video and help you understand. Because what I'm seeing with this, with a video like this, first of all, Elad's my friend, and he does a really great job as a journalist. When we have him on the show, he asks very straightforward questions. It's some of the most straight-laced journalism you'll ever see. When he's on the ground with the left or the right, he's asking questions and doing his job properly, and that is what they don't like. He's ideologically opposed to them by simply the questions that he asks. Now, right now, it may seem like no big deal. And so he got kicked out of a bar. Who cares? If this kind of stuff continues, along with the street violence, the weaponization of the government, and then we have this story, FBI slang terms, Chad, based, and red-pilled, it's over to target racially motivated violent extremists. The FBI has a list of words like Chad and based, which makes you a racially motivated extremist. The left and the right both use based. But you see where we're going. The weaponization of government. So let me show you this. Let me show you this video. Elad Eliyahu says, was out for drinks in Brooklyn last night where a far-left activist regular who was bartending started screeching at me about being a Zionist fascist and falsely claims I harass abortion patients or dox people as a result of my reporting. Not only is that just absolutely untrue, it's insane. Well, here's the video. There's two videos. Let me play this one for you.
Not my boy Elad. This person right here, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, harasses patients trying to get reproductive health care at Planned Parenthoods.
Fuck off!
That's Elad, by the way. Hey, no, why are you walking away? That's Elad. I cannot believe that. I cannot believe it. You have the balls to have a fucking social life.
Come on, dude. Let me just say.
Do not ever step in this neighborhood. Ever. You're out of your fucking mind.
And that's it. That's the point right there. That's the point right there. He says, you're out of your mind. Don't you step foot in this neighborhood. That's what I'm talking about. Now, here's my thing. I say this to Elad. Did he ask you to leave? I'll hit him up. I just saw he tweeted this. Did they ask you to leave? Because if it were me, I'd be like, are you asking me to leave, bro? Like, if you want me to leave, I'll leave. Yeah? All right, I'm out. That's it. I don't know if he actually did or not because all he was doing was just yelling about who he was. But I have been in situations like this before, and I just stand there. A few years ago, I was at an event at, where was this? Columbia. Mike Cernovich was speaking. I barely knew the guy. Had talked to him one time before at this point. A bunch of far-left lunatics are all protesting and screaming, and I'm sitting there filming with my GoPro on the gimbal. The funniest thing ever is that this one guy starts screaming. He's like, Mike, check. And he's like, that's Tim Pool. And they're all like, that's Tim Pool. He's like, don't let him film you. So, me, like, I'm not stupid. I grew up in the hacker community, so I kind of understand people a bit. I did this really funny thing where when he pointed, I started looking too, like who, where? And it confused the heck out of everybody. All of these leftists are like looking around and I'm looking around with them. And then he's pointing at me and I'm like looking over and I'm like pointing at another person and they have no idea who I am. And then the funniest thing happens. There's some old dude wearing like a photographer's vest. And then a random guy walks out to him and starts screaming at him like, you're the problem. And he's like, I don't know what's happening. And then finally the dude who's yelling at me then comes over and he's like, this guy right here. And I'm like looking and then it was just really, really funny. One guy comes to my left and he's like, so is Mike Cernovich your buddy? And I was like, I don't know Mike Cernovich, dude. And he's like, you're not friends with him? And I'm like, bro, I met him maybe like one time. And I said like, hey, how's it going? And they start making things up. This woman goes to the security guard and she goes, this guy is a white supremacist who's trying to dox us to get us killed. And then they're like, what? And then I walk over and I show them my press card and my ABC News employment card. And I'm like, look, man, I have no idea who these people are, what they're talking about. Like, here's my, here, I used to work here and here's where I currently work. Like, here are my cards. And they're like, we're so sorry about this, sir. But I just stood there. I'm at this university and I'm like, bro, I'll bring it. Now, fair point. Elad is at a bar and this guy's bartending. And so if he's like, yeah, then I'm not surprised Elad leaves. But we got a follow up from this guy. Let's hear what this lunatic has to say.
To expose their local fascist at their job this week. That's what if you can't get a raise, if you can't get a better job, the least I could fucking ask for y'all is to confront your fascists, confront your local fascists, tell them like it is, and feel good about it.
I'm going to stop right here. This is important for all of you to understand. Conservatives, libertarians, liberals, etc., disaffected liberals, sorry, not the woke weirdos. Many people seem to misunderstand the language being used here. When this guy says fascist, he does not mean the word fascist as you understand it. So when you then come out and say, you're the real fascist, he may as well be saying you're a global blob, a blah, 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 blah. He could make up any random word, a globon. And then you go, you're a globon. He'll be like, no, I'm not. That doesn't even make sense. It doesn't make sense. He's not saying fascist in the literal sense as any sane human being who studied history would understand it. He's saying, you're my enemy. You're my enemy. Call out enemies.
You know what I mean? You either punch a Nazi in the face or you expose the fucking dirtbag that he is.
So wait, hold on. He's calling Elad a Nazi and a Zionist at the same time. I love these people.
To any potential first date that he might have. I mean, it's crazy. Like, the unsuspected look on her face. Like, she had no idea that she was about to go home with a fucking proud Zionist who...
I love how he says Nazi and Zionist in the same sentence.
Loves to show up at abortion clinic defenses to harass protesters.
See, now full stop. This is what they do. They lie. Elad Eliyahu, for anybody who's ever seen any of his coverage, has never harassed anybody. In fact, my statement, like my criticism of Elad would be like, he doesn't ask enough pointed questions. He doesn't get to he asks very basic, good reporting questions. And I'm like, you could probably grill people a little bit more, but no. I don't want to put my bias on there. So if he goes out, he'll go up to someone and say like, hey, what are you doing here today? Oh, here's what I'm here for. But like, now some people have said X, Y, and Z. How do you respond to those comments? And they'll be like, oh, how dare you ask me a question?
You know, protecting people trying to get access to reproductive care. It's kind of wild.
Reproductive care. I love how they call things that. Reproductive care. It's like, dude, call it an abortion. It's an abortion. Reproductive care is when you're intending to reproduce. If your intention is to end the process of reproduction, I would not call it care. I would call it termination. So if you want to say reproductive termination, but here's the point of the games they play. They use words like white supremacist, fascist, etc., because they're trying to target the politically uninitiated so they seem like the good guys. They adopt these terms to mean what they want them to mean so that they can confuse the average person. Everybody knows fascists are bad. So when someone comes out and says, that's a fascist, they're saying you're a bad person. To the average person who doesn't understand what fascism is, they just hear someone in their neighborhood say, that's a bad person. And they go, wow, that's what a fascist is?
But yeah, that's Elad, bitch ass.
It's Elad, not Elad. But I wouldn't be surprised if this guy doesn't understand that or know that. The point is this. I don't care about this guy. I know who he is. I think, what was it, Elad on a date or something and he just left? Like, what's that about? I got some questions, Elad. The dude says this chick was like unsuspecting and about to go home with him. I really doubt that. I would imagine that Elad was just talking to a woman and then probably apologized and said, I'm going to leave. And then someone else yells F you at him. This is what the zombie horde does. You'll notice that in the video. Nobody knows who he is. One guy does. They yell, and then the zombies just yell along with it. I'll tell you, you know what you do. I'll tell you what you do. You want some advice? I'll tell you what I do. If I'm at a bar and nobody knows who I am, it's like the story I just told you about Cernovich. If somebody yells at me, granted, these days I may be too famous for something like this. I'm not trying to, humble brag or whatever, but it probably wouldn't work. But for someone like Elad, when that guy yelled and pointed at me and then I turned to look, I was invisible to the zombies because I was acting as they do. What I mean by that is if every single person is looking around confused, who is the subject for which is being addressed? Nobody knew who I was or what I looked like. So when he pointed, they're looking for someone to resist. When he shut it out, they're looking for the person swimming against the grain. I swam with the grain. I did what they did, and it confused the heck out of them. Here's what I would say for Elad. All he had to do when that guy says you're a lad, be like, that's Nick. He's that white. He's that Nazi guy. He's a Proud Boy. The bartender's a Proud Boy. And then what? Two weirdos yelling at each other. They're both fascists, and everyone's going to get confused. To play the game. If they want to yell and lie about you, why don't you play the game with them? Make it as confusing as possible. Be like, yo, this guy's a Proud Boy, dude. This guy's a Proud Boy. Don't drink here, man. What is wrong with you guys? Don't buy from this fascist. Screw you. I'm leaving because you're a fascist. Or maybe don't drag the Proud Boys, I guess. I don't know, whatever you want to do. But that's the idea. Because he's going to be like, no, I'm not. If Elad came out right away and just said, actually, you're the fascist, and the guy got on the defensive and said, no, I'm not. What are you talking about? I'm not a fascist. And then you start saying things. Look, Elad doesn't go to abortion clinics and harass people. That guy made that up. He yelled that to people. Don't just let them start making things up and lying. And then he leaves and people are like, F you, as he does. And they're like, wow, I can't believe that guy was here. That's how it works. You know, I'd be like, yo, this bartender guy, he's not a regular. He's not a bartender here. Yo, he's a fascist, man. This guy's I come here all the time. Yo, I'm leaving, man. This guy's a fascist. And then the bartender goes in the defensive, starts saying, no, I'm not, no, I'm not, no, I'm not. And then the narrative switches. Now the people sitting there being like, yo, for real, is this bartender a fascist? No, I swear to God, I'm not. I swear. Make them be the one to beg and cry as to why they're not the fascist. Because all fascist means to these people is bad guy. It doesn't actually mean anything related to political ideology because Elad is not a fascist. That's the point. Anyway, I'm not going to rant on this too much longer. I'm going to wrap it up. But anyway, shout out to Elad. You know, it is what it is. I'll always defend the people who work with us from these lunatics. But I'll say one final thought on this. If this is where things are going in terms of extremism, you can't go out for a drink. Elad's not Marjorie Taylor Greene. He's just a journalist. That's where we're going. I hope you understand. I'll leave it there. Next segment is coming up at 8 p.m. tonight at youtube.com/TimcastIRL. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.